What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to another one of Tyler's tech tutorials. Yep, we're going to take a break from the Martha Stewart side of things and focus on technology and innovation. So I'm going to start with Python. Why is he talking about a snake? Ew. No, the Python I'm referring to is the interpreted high-level programming language known to as Python. Python is right up there with JavaScript and Java. It is used worldwide. The code is embedded on multiple different devices and software applications. Back-end development. You can use Python to create a website, to build the back end of an app. So think of Reddit. Reddit is built using Python. Dropbox, I think, is actually written in Python. NASA relies heavily on Python for data science. Artificial intelligence, neural networks. It's all Python. So if you're looking to learn how to code, or if you're interested and you don't know where to start, use Python. Start with Python because it's simple, it's user-friendly, it's not a complex language to learn once you figure out the logic of it. I wouldn't start with C++ or something complex like that because I'm not even that, I don't know a lot about Python, but I know enough to go over this video and demonstrate some demonstrate some of the functionality of how I would use it in several different areas. So network engineering can also rely heavily on Python for task automation. We can also use Bash and PowerShell, but Python is very similar to Bash, or the a shell script on a Linux box. So today I am going to create a client-server connection by importing the socket module from the Python library. So what is a socket? Sockets can be traced back to the early 1970s when the DoD and the U.S. government tasked the DARPA, who was the Defense Advanced Research Project Agency, with creating a secure digital communications platform so the government could communicate with its operatives in the field, military bases, and installations. At the time, they really didn't have they didn't have networked devices that had that ability to communicate with different geographical locations. So if I were to pull up a map of what the ARPANET looked like in the 1970s, you'll see 3 or 4 different cities that were, I think, colleges at the time. Cornell was connected to Berkeley and DC. So that was the dawn of the internet. Obviously, in the early 90s, with the advancements in technology, it exploded. We had the World Wide Web and now the internet. So that was all founded based on this project. So pretty cool. Dive down history lane. So the socket, in order for a connection to be established, a TCP/IP connection has to have 2 network devices. Okay, so you have server, client. The server is responsible for providing resources to its network devices on that network. So we're going to create the server, and then we're going to create a client, and I'm going to run the server, execute that script, and then we're going to wait for it. Actually, no, we don't have to wait for it. We're going to run the client script, which will automatically connect to the server. I'm going to point it right towards that server using the same protocols and the same ports. We're going to listen in on the same port, and we're going to analyze that traffic. We're going to connect to it, and we're going to echo back text, encoded and decoded in binary. So it's pretty cool. It's if you're really into cybersecurity, Python is the best place to start, because all those tools, I shouldn't say all of them, a lot of them are actually written in Python. All those security tools that are used to hack other people's devices and networks, a lot of them are written in Python. I mean, it's very powerful, but at the same time, it all depends on what you're doing. If you're building a website, you might be better off just sticking with basic HTML for your front end, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. If you want a back end for like a database, then maybe go to PHP or MySQL. We'll build a couple LAMP servers down the road, Linux, Apache, MySQL, or aka MySQL, and PHP. I will show you how powerful the frameworks are, Django and Flask, at some point, and we'll build a couple apps with those frameworks to demonstrate. You can also use Python for games. So if you got a child in school that's struggling with mathematics and you don't know how to inspire them or encourage them, turn them on to Python, because Python just might be that key to help them understand the logic of applying those theories. You actually have the Python, you code it out, and it just might help you better understand that function. At least that's what it did for me at some point in life. So let's get back to the point. See, I'm always getting way off subject. So easy to do. All right, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to specify the interpreter. Now, this is a Windows machine, so I technically don't have to do this, but I'm going to just to be safe in case I have to export this script to a Linux box. We're going to import socket. Okay, now this is the server, and the server actually, so the socket will actually be utilized at the application and transport layer of the OSI model. That's going to be it's going to be known as the API. So we're going to code out that, and we're going to use the sockets library. So let me pull up some of my documentation here, and I'm going to show you how that's going to work. Please bear with me. Okay, so we want to create a socket object. That's the first thing we want to do. All right. So we're going to, let's actually specify that. Comments are always good. And the source code I have for this, I will make available. You know what? Let's call it something else. Let's call it S object, SOBJ. I can't type because my hands are cold. Oh my gosh. It's been a while since I've done this. And we want to print that object. And let's run it and see what happens. And it should print out to the console, socket successfully created. is very cool. So now we want to bind that object. Actually, we know first we want to create that port. Now we want to bind. Oh, it's actually going to be we want to leave that string empty so it can listen on requests from that computer on the network. And we're going to print socket binded to and we're going to listen. Oh my gosh. Normally I'm a really fast typer, but my hands are freezing because it's really cold in this office room. So we're going to say socket is listening. So this is PyCharm. It's just another fancy IDE. It stands for Integrated Developer Environment. It's pretty awesome, but obviously it's a system resource hog on this virtual machine, and I honestly don't know if I'm going to be using it again. So let's run this again and see what happens. Okay, so this is good. It's going to kick back a bunch of errors and tell me what's wrong with it. So if we look at object bind, it might not like that because of the specified port number. Let's try that one. Okay, so step bind. Oh, okay, I know why. So let's delete that. So now, here we go. Oh, and there's the firewall. So that port was not actually being used. So it was blocked. Oh no. What do we do? Alright, so this is a virtual machine, obviously. So it's isolated and quarantined on its own virtual network. It's on its own different subnet mask and relies on DHCP and DNS from a router that's also a virtual machine. So we're okay. It's set up specifically for this environment. So I'm going to allow, and let's finish the program. So we're going to create a loop and I can't spell today. Okay. I really can't spell. Well, true. Let's establish connection with client that we still have to write. We're going to accept the connection. We're going to print that to the console like the rest of them. I before E, except after C. And let's send back a message. let's close the connection. That's just, I mean, let's be safe and okay. So now let's create the client. So we're going to do the same thing. In fact, I'm going to go up here and I'm going to copy this. I'm going to do a little copy pa. The client side is only a couple lines of code, so it's really simple. And I'll only make all this source code available. So we want to s obj for s object is going to be our variable that we're going to create. And the port is going to be the whatever port we used before, 2334. And let's connect to server.py. Now, one thing that's really cool is I could actually, and what I probably should do and what I'm going to do is actually create the client on a separate computer, but on the same network. You know what? Yeah, let's do that. So I'm going to copy this and I'm going to go over here and fire up my Linux box. Hopefully it's still up. Yep, it is. Very good. I'm going to connect with a user that does not have root privilege. Okay, alright, so this is another project that I'm working on, so I'm going to minimize all this stuff. Go away, go away, go away. And I already have Wireshark up, so that's cool. So I might just run that as soon as I run the client on the Windows machine. So let's go over here. And we're going to use the Vim editor, which is awesome. Hopefully I can copy and paste. I got an idea. I'll have to use Nano first. Nano's another text editor that's pretty awesome. So let's edit. Oh, come on. Really? Whatever. So I'll have to type it all out again, that's fine. Now you notice how it's not kicking out the errors like the other one was, but I mean, that's okay. The only difference is I would be using the IP address of that server. So what is the IP address? All right, let's say we got to figure out what the IP address is from this computer. So we're going to get into a little bit of penetration testing. Only this time it's going to be basic reconnaissance. So we're going to scan our network to see what targets are available that we can probe. So what is the what's the subnet mask of this network? So it's a class A IP address. So we want to go to and that's going to list out the targets. There should only be 2, 3 maybe yet. 3, let's see, 2. Windows 10 virtual machine and the virtual router. Another way I can do this is by going to ARP scan. Oh, so 10.12, what is 10.12? Let's focus on that specific device. Don't like how it does that, but that's okay. Okay, so looks like I have my security working pretty good on that machine, which is very surprising. Okay, so we know what the IP address is. I'm just showing you for demonstration purposes. Always lose, always close connection. So now I'm going to want to make that script executable. So we're going to modify the permissions. Actually, let me show you what I'm talking about first. Alright, so modify the permissions by... So now, there we go. So it is now executable. So let's minimize and go back to our Windows 10 machine. And you know what? We'll finish it from this too, just to kind of come full circle. Now you see what I mean? How it types in for you, which is pretty awesome. But you know, it's good to not have the help sometimes, because it will make you think harder to find the solution. It's all about troubleshooting, and I mean, there is another client server program that I was going to use. I actually might have already done that. That will use a try catch statement that will spit out errors to the console if it's not written correctly. I before E. Okay. So why did I use a different IP address here and same one on the other? Because this is localhost, and the other was actually this is on the same computer, whereas the other one is not. So I have to specify what the server is, or where the server is, and I have to point it to that server to establish a connection. So let's go back and let's run the script. And it's listening. And I don't want to run it from here. I want to run it Okay, let me try this. Oh, I got an idea. All right, so let's open up Python's IDE. Oh, I want to do that. Let's go to projects. Okay, so I'm going to run this, and we should see. Oh, it didn't work. Okay, so let's just run it from here then. All right, so right click, run client. Oh, and it did not work. Oh, what a bummer. But it's still listening. Am I using the same port? Let me see. Oh, wait a second. I didn't specify the port number. What's wrong with you? Okay, now. Alright, there it is. I'm going to kick out another error, but it did exactly what we wanted it to do. So, if I wanted to analyze the traffic with Wireshark, I actually have it open on here already, so I'll just use this. And I will have to go in here and update that with the right variable and spelling. So if I want to do that again, S there is a way to replace okay. Okay, I got it. So we want to search and replace S, and replace it with SOBJ, and go. Okay, that's not what I wanted. Oh, that's not what I wanted, definitely not. So let me see. Search for S and replace with SOBJ. There we go. So I want to do the same thing up there. Same thing right there. Okay. Oh, one more. And I'm just going to go to it and do it myself. It's been a while since I've used Vim. But I can actually, I think if I replace... Okay, so if I... Okay. So let's analyze the traffic. And Wireshark is known as it's a packet sniffer. It's kind of more of a man-in-the-middle tool, or I'm sorry, a man-in-the-middle. It's a tool used for a man-in-the-middle attack, or to sniff communications amongst networked devices. So if you got someone that's communicating back and forth on the same network, you can use this tool to sniff and decode the packets. Now, obviously, it's all encrypted, so it's really not going to help much. It's more used as a network troubleshooting tool that's awesome when you're trying to fix connectivity issues and improve quality of service. It really helps you for troubleshooting. Now, years ago, when communication protocols were not encrypted, so for example, Telnet. Telnet used to be the a remote access protocol for connecting to a computer, so Telnet, IP address, and the port number, and I connect to that with that password, and I could actually view that password in plain text with this tool because it wasn't encrypted. So that's why the Telnet protocols, it's not used anymore. Well, it is used for troubleshooting on very rare occasions. SSH is what is the protocol used now, because that is it's the, I believe, used at the session or transport layer because it implies encryption upon connecting to that server. So I'm getting way ahead of myself here. So I want to execute the client, and there it is. Oh, we just saw it. Did you see the little black guy right there? The highlighted black item. Let me see if I can find it. I think it was TLS, right? Alright, that's all this going back and forth. So let's go back down here. And let's run this again. And I'm going to stop it here, and I'm going to and it did. So it connected from 10.10.10.11, which is the address, IP address of this other computer, which is the Linux box. And notice how the communications are in fact encrypted. So even if I were trying to use this tool to spy on people, I mean, so in other words, if you're going to go out there and try to download this tool and say, oh, I'm going to hack my neighbors and my gigs, no, don't. Don't do that. It's only for educational purposes only. But it's a very good tool. But do not run this. I repeat. Do not run this on a network that you do not own. Do not do that. Don't try this at home. You can try. I mean, do it in a lab. On your own personal network. This isn't even my own personal network because it's not even a network. It's a virtual network that I'm going to kill and squash as soon as I'm done with this video. So yes, I have the ability to do this because it's set up in a lab environment. So the IP address was 10.10.10.11, and let's see what the port was. So now if I go to nmap, yeah, it's still all down. It's still, yeah. Let's look at the ports. So it's pretty cool. That is an example of a client-server connection established by importing the sockets module from the Python library, just one of many libraries available in Python. So let's say I want to get the IP address of this computer just to make sure that, you know, like let's say command prompt isn't available, or the only way I can use it is Python. Now I can actually, yeah, you know what, let's do that real quick. Let's write a script that will tell us what the IP address of. I can use the console, or I can use a script, and I'd rather use a script because it's always going to be available when I need it. So alright, so first thing we're going to do, and what happened? There it is. Notice I'm using the same API from the client server. Specify the port for HTTP. Print. Socket name. You know what? Let's get the host name too. Thought it was maybe it's just let me see. There it is. I hope that's right. I guess we'll find out. So let's what was this line of code that I screwed up on? Wait. So, yeah. A little rusty, folks. I apologize. There. So that is in fact the IP address of this computer. So that is the first demonstration of the Python sockets module and written in Python. And we're going to be going through and diving into the Python programming language. We're going to be touching base on Java. And then we're going to, I don't really know a lot about Java. It's actually the first one I started with, and then I went into C#, then Cold Fusion and PHP, and then obviously front-end development so like HTML, CSS. I'm actually more proficient with some of that, and this is just stuff that I really haven't touched up on in quite some time. So I'm trying to rehash and get it back. Get back in sync with it. So yeah. This is I figured a video would be a great way to get back in the saddle. So this is going to be a long video of me just yakking, so I apologize, but I hope it was useful, and hope everyone's doing well, and I look forward to the next video. Over and out.